How's it going, guys? And welcome to a retrospective on WWF Raw for the Xbox. Now, this game is also available for the PC, but of course we're going to be looking at the Xbox version. And this is a game that was published by THQ, but guess what? It wasn't developed by you, because it was developed by Anchor, and this was pretty common for the time. You had games that were by different developers for the GameCube, such as WrestleMania 18, 19, and the Day of Reckoning series. And you also had the Raw series. There was a sequel to this game as well, Raw 2, and that was also developed by Anchor. So this was a really fun time for wrestling games because you just didn't have one developer. Ukes wasn't developing every single WWF WWE game. There was multiple developers spread across multiple consoles, and this was a really fun time. I remember looking at the commercial for WWF Raw and looking in magazines and saying, man, I wish I could play this game. I had the PS2 and I was playing Smackdown, Just Bring It. I was just happy with that game, but I couldn't help but feel like this was some type of unattainable item that I really wanted. You know, when you owned the console as a kid and you saw a game on another console that was an exclusive and you wanted it so bad, but you just couldn't have it. Well, now as an adult, I am finally getting to play this game. So what did I think of this game? Was it worth the wait? Was it a huge, massive disappointment? Well, take a look at my retrospective and you guys will see. Hope you all enjoy this one. So let's talk about the first thing you see when you start up the game. You will be greeted with the Raw intro that was on TV at the time. After that, the game switches to the in-game graphics and you get to see that spectacular pyro display that would always greet you at the beginning of every episode of Raw. And this looks really good. Seems like they really put a lot of work into this, and it looks really realistic for the time anyway, and it actually still does look pretty good. And it's a really cool juxtaposition to reality to in-game, and it's nice that they kind of paired these two up. So it's a great way to kick off the game. And you go to the menus, and the menus look really nice, and they look sleek, and they look like they belong and kind of relate to an episode of Raw. It looks gritty and metallic. And it looks really cool and nice, and I really like the way these menus look and how they have everything laid out with some WWE footage playing at the side. Here you will see that there's actually a really cool feature called Museum, which I like, where you could watch all the Titantron videos and listen to the theme music. This is a really cool feature, and unlike Just Bring It, you actually get to listen to the full songs, and you can listen as long as you want. And I thought that this was really cool. You know, it's like having your own little theater, and it feels like a really cool little place to just hang out. And you could look at the wrestlers, you could check them out, and you could see how shitty Triple H looks. I'm like, oh my god. You know, this game has pretty good graphics, I would say, for the time. Some wrestlers look really good, like Kane. The Rock looks pretty good. But Triple H, man, they just butchered this guy's face totally. And the funny thing is, you look at the back of the box of the game, and he looks pretty good. So I don't know what happened if they tried tweaking, you know, his features a bit, but his facial features are just totally just hammered and just... He looks like he got hit in the face with his own sledgehammer. I mean, I don't know who this guy is, but that does not look like Triple H. So you leave the museum and you take a look around and you'll see they have Create a Wrestler, which is extremely limiting. It's embarrassing compared to the Smackdown series. I don't know how THQ allowed Anchor to just get away with this shittiness, but this is not a very good Create a Wrestler. I'm not into Create a Wrestler as much as I used to when I was younger, so I didn't really bother too much with this. But you'll take a look at these modes, and are you kidding me? There is just the most basic modes here. You only get singles, tag, triple threat, fatal 4-way, a battle royal, which is basically just a fatal 4-way elimination match instead of it just being one fall to a finish. So you don't really get a whole lot of variety. You get a King of the Ring tournament, and you know, this is kind of, we're back to the days of WCW NWO Revenge. You know, we just have multi-man matches, we have singles matches, but there's no gimmick matches at all. You have no cage match, you have no ladder match, and at this point, this is just unexcusable because even No Mercy had a ladder match. Even WrestleMania 2000 had a cage match. I mean, where are these features that define the WWE and wrestling in general? I mean, how could they miss out on these things? So let's talk about the roster. This game was released in February of 2002, and this roster is quite outdated, to say the very least. It's a pretty big roster. You have a lot of the wrestlers that were in Just Bring It, with a few exceptions. You have X-Pac, who I always thought it was weird that they excluded him from Just Bring It. You have Just Incredible, Al Snow, K-Quick, and Haku. Now, some of these wrestlers like Haku were already long gone, so I don't even know what they were doing here. But you'll also notice that all the Alliance wrestlers are missing. There's no Booker T, there's no RVD, there's no DDP. There's a lot of stars missing from here, and it's really disappointing. Now you could see that they tried their hardest to try to up this game as much as possible. Stone Cold has his Alliance music, Christian has his opera music. So you can see they did try their damnedest to try to bring this game up to date, but sure enough, the game was outdated. No Alliance members, and there were delays in this game. It was supposed to be a launch title, and obviously in February 2002 that was not to be. But the roster does contain a lot of the very best that the Attitude Era had to offer. But let's talk about the gameplay in this game, which is the most crucial part of any wrestling game, of course, any game for that matter. This is actually a pretty tough game, and it also doesn't help that the gameplay is completely broken. We got to talk about that right now. I mean, this right here is not a very good control system at all. It's very clunky, it's very wonky, it feels too slow at times. It's nice that it's a bit more realistic than the Smackdown series was offering at the time, but this just does not work. Now you can customize the controls to your liking, and I would definitely recommend that you do so, because reversing moves by hitting two buttons at the same time, that being the X and A buttons, is no way to play this game. So before doing anything, I recommend going into options and changing this complete mess. Now, as you're playing the game, you'll notice that there's a grapple system that kinda sorta reminds us of the AKI titles. Kinda reminds us of No Mercy. You have to grapple first and hit a directional button with the grapple button again in order to perform a grapple move. One button for strikes. If you use the directional button with the strike button, you'll perform different strikes. So you see that it is pretty similar in a lot of ways, and I did like that, but it is the furthest thing from the same feeling of those classic N64 titles. It is nowhere in the same ballpark as being as smooth as those great classic legendary games. And the gameplay is just completely broken. You'll go for a pinfall, and the wrestler will kick out, and they will actually get up before you a lot of the time. Also, you'll hit finishers, and the wrestler that you just hit it on, your opponent will get right back up. When playing this game, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I needed to hit an additional move. You'll have regular moves, strikes, that will actually keep a wrestler down, but moves like the Stone Cold Stunner, the Rock Bottom, and the Last Ride do not keep opponents down. The Undertaker could hit a Last Ride on someone like Taka Michinoku, and they'll get right back up after it. That is just tremendously broken in every sense of the word. I mean, it's even more broken than Matt Hardy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is just disastrous programming. Now you will notice that there are several meters here. You see that there is a stamina meter and there's a voltage meter. And the voltage meter kind of acts like Spirit or the Attitude Mirror from No Mercy or the WCW AKI games. And when it starts to flash, you can perform your finisher. And some wrestlers like Stone Cold and The Rock, who are more popular, more charismatic, you will notice will be able to achieve a flashing voltage meter a lot faster. Normally this can be done by performing taunts, that really boosts it up a lot, and also by performing different kinds of moves. If you repeat a move a little too often, you'll notice that it will actually decrease on you. Now the stamina meter is something that we would see in future Smackdown vs. Raw games and also in the Day of Reckoning series. This was something that was a little bit half-baked here. You run out of stamina way too fast and it leaves you open to attacks. I understand that they were going for something realistic here, but this was something even in the Smackdown vs. Raw games, they never truly perfected it until the WWE 2K series. I'm playing WWE 2K19 right now, and the stamina is just great. It works to perfection, and it makes the matches very realistic, and it doesn't feel like it gets in the way. Here you're running out of stamina within the first few moments of a match, and it's really annoying. Also, when you reverse a move, it's very unrealistic. Like, there's no actual real counters to moves. Like, there's no reversal for the rock bottom, you know, when a wrestler elbows his way out, and there's no counter for the Stone Cold Stunner. It's just a lot of weird pushing and shoving. Like, it's just not realistic, and it just shows that they didn't really program this like a lot of past wrestling games. I mean, these were pretty standard fare to have normal counters for moves in other wrestling games, so I don't get why it's not here and instead we get this. This game is pretty damn hard. I tried playing it in normal and wow, I mean, I couldn't really beat anybody. I play a few matches and I'd end up losing. I could get through a few of them, but man, like, the CPU is unforgiving, and that's a pretty good feature, but I'm playing on normal, for God's sakes. I had to kick it down to easy. And, you know, the CPU does put up a decent enough fight even on easy. This is a pretty strange difficulty setup. I mean, on normal, that you have to struggle this much? I mean, man, and you know, the gameplay is not helping matters at all, because you really have to struggle at times, and it doesn't feel fair, because when you're struggling, that makes the game harder unnaturally, because that's not the way that it's supposed to be. The challenge should come from wrestling your opponent, not from the way that the gameplay is set up. Now, if you've noticed, I haven't said anything about the story mode in this game. That's because WWF Raw doesn't have a story mode. Instead, they have the title match mode. Basically, it's just a series of matches with each title having its own requirement. You get the WWE title, the Intercontinental, European, Hardcore, and Light Heavyweight Championship, as well as the European and Women's Championship. And for the Women's Championship, you could actually compete as a man if you want. You only face female opponents, but I chose Trish Stratus for this one. I didn't want to just beat a total asshole here. So yeah, that's pretty much your main goal in this game, is the title matches. So you'll fight a series of opponents, and you'll work your way through the ranks, and then you'll earn the title, and your wrestler will always do the same celebration. There's a beautiful pyro display, which I did like, and you get to see the title. The only time that you will be able to see the titles that you're wrestling for are in this mode, in this one celebration cutscene. Because you can't see these titles in exhibition mode, you can't see the title anywhere else, which is really disappointing. Titles look pretty good in this game. I'd even say that they look better and more realistic than the title in some of the Smackdown vs. Raw games, where the belts look too small. I'm playing Smackdown vs. Raw 2010. The titles just didn't seem to size. They didn't seem to scale. But here they do. But what is these ridiculous celebrations? I mean, it's just hilarious seeing The Undertaker celebrate his title win by jumping up in the air and giving the, yeah, I did it kind of mannerism. It just looks awful. I mean, could they have not programmed some celebration taunts for some of these wrestlers? I mean, this just does not look good. And I'm not celebrating just how goofy this looks. And you will get rewards for winning these title matches. You'll unlock all the McMahons and Fred Durst. That's about it. This is kind of disappointing. You'd expect there to be more unlockable wrestlers, but you know, what can you do? It's nice to have everything unlocked already, I suppose, but there's really not that much to strive for. I mean, are we really playing as the McMahons? I mean, does really anybody ever play as them? It is cool to have Fred Durst in this game. I'm a massive Limp Bizkit fan, so it is cool to have him in here. And he was in Just Bring It. But I gotta say, they really put a lot more effort into Fred Durst's entrance in Just Bring It, as well as his moveset, because here he just has The Undertaker's entrance and he has Undertaker's moveset. And that's it. That's all we get. I mean, talk about lazy. Also, some of these entrances just look really stiff. Like when a wrestler raises their arms above their head, they can't like straighten their arms out. Like they're all arched, and it looks really odd. I don't know why this is. I mean, I get that this game has a different art style, a different style of graphics, but how come in Just Bring It, this wasn't really a problem, but here it just looks really bizarre and odd, and you'd expect this from something on a console from the previous generation, which even No Mercy didn't even have this problem, so why are we having this problem here? But on the other hand, you have Raven entering in with his shopping cart, which was something that we didn't even see in Just Bring It, and you have Big Show ducking at the entranceway, which is awesome. And I'm not sure if a lot of people noticed this, but this is one of the few games where Kane's theme music and pyro are perfectly timed. Usually, the pyro fires off way too early, like in Just Bring It, it comes in way too early. Kane is already entering, and they actually got it right here, so credit to them for that, and it looks fantastic. So there is some attention to detail, despite there being some really weird problems with these entrances. Plus, this is the first WWE game and wrestling game in general that featured the ability to interrupt another wrestler's entrance, and we wouldn't see this feature implemented in any other WWE game for years to come. So this was definitely a unique feature at the time, and it's really fun to do. Now, one of the things that you will notice, and we've talked about limitations so far, is the fact that the only arena in the game is the Raw arena. Yeah, that's it. Just Raw. I get it that the game is called WWF Raw, but this is a really literal interpretation. I mean, WWF Smackdown and Smackdown 2 and Just Bring It had more than just the Smackdown arena, so why do we just get the Raw arena here? Now, you could argue that maybe, possibly, there might be two, because when you play the King of the Ring mode, you get the Raw arena still, but the side Titantron video walls, they say King of the Ring on them. So, I guess that's something there, but I mean, that's not a separate arena, that's just a little extra presentation, and it's not much. We also don't get any commentary in this game, and I'm okay with that because I really like the music that plays during the matches, and this is something that we would get until Smackdown versus Raw. We would get music even when there was commentary in the games. Like in Just Bring It, there was commentary. It wasn't very good commentary, but they still included background music, and I love the background music so much because it's these really creative, funky little jams, and they always sound so good and they're so pleasing to the ear. Now, one unique thing that this game does bring to the table is the weapons and equipment list, and you can collect different weapons. You could go and look at them when you're done with your match and you're done collecting them. All you really have to do is just pick up the weapon and you pretty much own it. And if it's an accessory, you could put it on and wear it, and this can be pretty entertaining. You can have the Undertaker put on Jerry the King Lawler's crown, so I enjoyed that. This is a nice little touch and it is fun. It's not anything spectacular, but it is a little something extra that sets this game apart from the others. You can't really do this in any other wrestling game to my knowledge. So it is cool that WWF Raw kind of has its own identity with this interesting feature that they decided to include. So overall, did I enjoy my time with WWF Raw? Not really. I mean, it was great to finally be able to play this game and experience it, but, you know, the gameplay is pretty bad. There's not too much that this game does that other games don't, so you might as well just play those games, like almost every game in the Smackdown series. And I must say that IGN must have been smoking crack when they wrote their review, because this game is the furthest thing from a 9.1 I think I've ever experienced. So yeah, their credibility, just like always, is in total shambles. But anyway, I digress. So that is my retrospective of WWF Raw for the Xbox. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell to get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. And thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.